So
I think
for
it's
me,
because you were popular on Instagram before. Because your feed was like everybody's ideal feed, you know?
it the ideal feed back then, yeah, the very ideal
Uh-huh.
like white borders and the
Yeah.
disco T1
Yung
filter,
mga
that one, yes.
quotes. The fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
Huh? How did that describe you being Filipino?
Mhm.
Because everyone has their own, issues. So like if they really can't help you out, that's really not their fault. Hi guys, it's Yoon and welcome to episode 13 of Toxic Talks. And today I'm with somebody I haven't talked to for a while. So please introduce yourself. What do you do?
Sure. Hi, my name is Jamie. I am right now an ex high school student and
Mhm.
future college student. Um
Wow,
yeah, that's me.
that's you.
And yeah, that's me.
Hmm. Well, before I go into the disclaimers, I just want to say that she actually did not mention any of her achievements, so I'm gonna do that for her.
Ah,
So,
supposed to do that pala. Oh my gosh.
I
Okay.
mean, well, one of the things that I did see is that
Sure.
you were a scholar for World Scholars Cup, and you even
Oh yeah, yeah,
made it to like uh, to Harvard, right? Or was that Yale?
yeah. The Yale, yeah.
Yale,
Yeah,
Yale.
the
There,
Yale
you even
competition, yeah.
yeah, that was amazing. Congratulations as well for
Thank
that.
you, thank you.
Yeah, I was watching the sidelines, like updates. I was like,
Um,
oh, whoa, she's part of that.
I thought
Nice.
because you know the algorithm on Instagram, diba? Sometimes it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
show the people you want to actually see. So
Yeah,
I thought
true.
I was seeing your posts, but I was thinking, what if other people never see my posts? So I was thinking, baka hindi niya na ako,
Uh,
she doesn't see me anymore, ganon. And then little did I know,
oh,
she was watching on the sidelines.
yeah, I was watching in the sidelines. Yeah,
Mm.
I was just quiet about it because you were having fun. Anyway, so going
Yeah.
going to the disclaimer, what we're gonna share may be factual in certain ways and may just be our opinions, our experiences, and we're definitely open to being corrected for anything that we might be wrong. And that's that. So don't take anything too hard or too personally. And now, introduction to our friendship. So let's talk a little bit about that. Do you want to start or do
Ah.
you want me to start?
There are two different perspectives about this. I guess I want to start with mine because it's really cringy.
Okay. All right.
Remember, when we were like back in our old same school days?
Yes.
Yeah. There was this time where Tumblr was sort of a big thing, right? You know, the
It
aesthetics,
was. Yeah.
the tiger filters. Snapchat was
Mm-hmm.
just about to be popular, ganon.
Yeah.
And then I remember that in that old school's culture, if you had a friend on the higher grades or you had a sibling
Mm-hmm.
on a higher grade than you were sort of
Mm-hmm.
seen as cool. Like that's just how I
Yeah.
saw it. Yeah, you were sort of popular because a lot of older people knew you. And then like
Yeah.
Instagram was a big thing, right? So I
Yes,
remember
it was.
DMing you. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hi, Ate. You're so cute. I want to be friends with you." I was like, I remember now that I remember it, there is really a thing called being FC, no? Like there's
Yes.
like I don't know how I did that. But then every time I
Mm-hmm.
remember it, I'm like, why did I do that? You know?
Really?
Yeah.
That is definitely two different perspectives.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so for one, you just unlocked the memory of mine. I just realized. So
Hmm.
from what I remember, you were batchmates with another person, Tabby. You were batchmates with her,
Oh no,
and
Tabby
that
was a higher grade than me.
really,
I was lower grade than her. But yeah, I
I
was trying to
see.
be
But I
her
think you
friend
knew her
also.
as well.
Yeah, I did.
I think you got to her first, and then you got to me because we were close.
Yeah.
No, excuse
Churchmates,
me.
I
I'm just gonna
think.
drink
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Also, Nisi was a friend of mine. She batchmate ko, that's why.
That's why now, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, definitely. Now I remember. Anyway, on my side, how do I? So you're fine with me sharing what I remember, right? You're not gonna
Yeah,
be
of
like,
course, of
okay.
course. However
what
cringy
I
it
re-
is.
okay, so what I remember back then. So yes, you were kind of talking to me. At first, I was also kind of like, why? But not like why in a like bad sense that you were annoying or
Mm-hmm.
anything. I was just like, because I just came from homeschool back then. So
Mm-hmm.
having this attention from someone was just kind of weird. Like, is this normal? Because like I came from homeschool, so is this normal? Is this normal to be like
Uh-huh.
interacted with lower grades, something like that? So
I think
for
it's
me,
because you were popular on Instagram before. Because your feed was like everybody's ideal feed, you know?
it the ideal feed back then, yeah, the very ideal
Uh-huh.
like white borders and
Yeah.
disco P1
You
filter,
want
that one, yes.
quotes? Aesthetic quotes?
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
that.
Yeah, let's you're definitely like unlocking buried memories right now.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you definitely did. But from my perspective, what I thought was interesting was that here's like a young girl wanting to learn more of the world, so she goes to someone older. That's how I saw it. Like it
Mm.
was like also break. Even if let's say it was cringy, it still took courage or like bravery to like talk to someone who's like you're not really even close to or anything. So for me, I thought it was really nice that you like talked to me because I was like, oh, hello, and I remembered you would just also open up to me about certain things, and I was like, oh, stuff like that. And so I'm not gonna go into that because that's your thing. I'm not gonna, But
Yeah.
I was happy that you trusted me with those things. I was like, oh wow. And I'm just like that's why when I say that I am happy that you're like doing better, it's because I saw that side of you that was just kind of
Yeah. That was really
um
dark. That side was
it
really
really
dark.
was. It
Yeah.
was. That's why I'm so proud of you. Yeah,
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
exactly. Like I think if you were still the same girl, you wouldn't even accept my invitation for this talk. You would like probably be kind of
Probably, yeah. But you know,
yeah.
I
But
have
look at
one
you.
distinct memory of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
remember, I think I was on a vacation to Philippines. And
okay.
then I was like, do you want pasalubong? And then I don't know if you remember, but like I gave you like a sash of plastic sash of polvoron. Like
Uh
before
huh.
that, I was telling you the polvoron I was gonna get, and I sent you a picture of it. But that
Uh
picture
huh.
was just taken from Google. I haven't even bought polvoron at that time. It looked so fake when I had it on my Instagram page.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was like, at Eunice, at your old username, I was like,
Yeah.
at
Yes.
Eunice, this
Yes.
is your
Name.
pasalubong. And then it looked so different from the one I actually gave you to school. It was like
Uh
so
huh.
cringe every time I remember
Wow.
it. Yeah.
I
You're like
didn't
a
know that
crush
at
to
all.
me.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I remember just thinking, oh, this is cool because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have little sisters. I was the youngest, so it was for me. It's like
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked a lot about that, and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna introduce the topic. So today, Jamie's gonna help me open up a new topic this week. And it's actually related to all the previous topics. So we're going to talk about community and specifically Filipino community and in the perspectives of two abroad kids. So we have to emphasize that we are abroad kids because our perspective is definitely different from somebody who did grew up in the Philippines. And just to explain that, and is there anything else you want to say about the topic?
Sorry. So far there's really none. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All
Let's
right.
discuss about it.
Okay, so now we're going to define the terms. And something I've been asking my previous guests is what is toxicity to them? And I'm wondering what is yours?
I think mine is pretty simple. Toxicity
Mm-hmm.
is sort of the actions that you cause
Mm-hmm.
to other people that can be damaging to their emotional or mental health, which could lead
Mm-hmm.
to them damaging their physical health, ganon. Even if it's
Mm-hmm.
even if that act is report not reported, is caused by sort of how do you say it? even though you caused it unconsciously, it's still
Yeah.
sort of toxic. Yeah, it's still toxic,
Yeah.
consciously or unconsciously.
Mm.
Unconscious.
And to add to that, I guess there are some people at this day and age we could say it's kind of ignorant when they don't check on the things that they
Mm,
do. But it is kind of hard to like fully be aware of everything, right? Because
yeah, it is.
indirectly or directly, we can't really control who gets hurt or who doesn't. So yeah.
Yeah.
And now,
Especially if you, especially if you don't really acknowledge or accept things by yourself, or you don't
yeah.
self-check on your mental health,
Exactly.
you wouldn't know the toxicity that
Exactly.
you cause to other people.
Exactly. And now another word we're going to also define is the word community, because community is so many things. So based on Google, the meaning is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. So, we've been in more than one community. Right now, we're going to talk about the Filipino community,
Mhm.
but you've been in fandoms, that's also a community.
Yeah.
I've been in a fandom, and there's also toxicity also there.
Mhm.
A lot. I don't. hmm And there's
Mhm.
also like school clubs. Those are communities,
Yeah.
and communities is the place that you live in, like a village or a subdivision, a province, any area. So there's that. And even families is like a small unit in a community as well. hmm
Mhm.
Now, since we're going to talk about Filipino community, we're going to tackle the culture as well, because that's what makes it a unified community, to not just say by blood, but just sharing same values and other things. And now, before we go into those shared values, what do you think of when you hear the words community and toxicity together?
I think for me, when I hear it together, it's more of the similar ways people in a community have experiences which led to them to develop toxic traits. Sort of the
Mm-hmm.
saying na the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. So the toxicity
Exactly.
that comes that is shown in communities or that is spread throughout communities could be rooted from personal issues or traumas that they got inside the community or from those who have
Mm-hmm.
been in the community. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
toxicity and community together is when mixed together, it's more of
Mm-hmm.
it's just shared negative experiences that people
Mm-hmm.
sort of spread to other people. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
inevitable, sometimes
Exactly.
it's
It could have been
avoidable.
avoided. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, something that I researched, and I got this from Wikipedia, however, not actually the most credible source because it can be edited out. But based on how I read this, they are actually quite true. So, the values of a Filipino community or a Filipino family, because that is Filipino families are part of the community, is that we're family oriented. We have the same joy and humor. We're apparently flexible, adaptable, and creative. And we
Mm-hmm.
are very religious, and we have the ability to survive, hardworking, industrious, and very hospitable,
Mm-hmm.
which I agree with. But when I was like reading through this, I was thinking how the idea of being family oriented at times can be very toxic.
Yeah. I
There's
agree.
just a lot of layers to that, so we could just go through it very briefly, not too
Mhm.
much, but based on the things that I mentioned, like these values, do you have any personal experiences that you'd like to share that you experienced?
I think I'd first like to tackle the family oriented toxicity because
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, that is so true. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is seriously nothing wrong with being family oriented. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually a pretty good thing, especially if
It
you're Filipino.
is.
However, there's just like on the surface, even if it's just on the surface, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot that we have to address. Like
Yes.
for example, family from the perspective of an abroad kid, there's definitely a higher expectation for you
Mm-hmm.
people in the Philippines have set,
Yeah.
have to meet their standard of an abroad kid.
Mhm.
Or there's this, I guess it doesn't really affect us kids because it's more of a parent's problem. But
Mhm.
hearing or seeing this problem has an effect on us too.
Yeah,
Especially,
it does.
I don't know if it's like similar for you, but I think it's very similar to most of abroad kids that there are always issues with family back home, like
Mhm.
land or financial or
Mhm.
just petty family fights, you know? I think
Mhm.
it's very common.
Exactly.
And so the kids most of the time get dragged into it.
Mhm.
Like I've been told many times now, I mean there's this petty family fight that my family is going
Mhm.
through, and most of the time they use, I don't know how to translate this in English like an exact way, but they always tell me, they always go like, anak mo muna yung ayusin mo bago mo i-judge yung sa amin. However, I don't think that's
Ah.
like really nice because they don't really know what's happening here. It's a
Mhm.
different world back in our house than when we are in the Philippines. So
Mhm.
this whole, kasi cutting ties in
Mhm.
Filipino culture inside the family is not really common
It isn't.
kasi
It really is
we're
not.
family oriented,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so a lot there's a lot of toxicity that surrounds that family
Mhm.
oriented mindset, you know?
Mhm.
And everybody gets dragged. That's the problem. It's not like you
Yeah.
can avoid being in it. Your name is going to be
Mhm.
mentioned regardless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
And
I
then
guess
there's
just to
ay,
add,
sorry.
hmm?
No,
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 go
no, no,
on.
it's okay. I'm sorry.
It's all
Okay,
right.
go.
It's all right. Just to add more to what you were saying, it's also that since they have this high expectations, it's just that they have this idea that you have more opportunities there. You should seize it. You should take all of it, stuff like that. And it's there's also this idea you should also bring us there. Let's say like like extended family,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
when like you should help us and get here and everything. And they think that since of course from this is just like the basis of like the currency from dirhams to pesos, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually is big. So they think that it for us it's easy to earn those dirhams and stuff like that. And I would see my parents as well like bring money home and they think everything's just so
Easy.
nice and
Yeah.
easy when in fact it's not. We're not trying to say that it's harder in the Philippines to live in the Philippines. I mean, that's the reason why people go abroad is because it is hard in the Philippines. But I think certain Filipinos, especially if they're not knowledgeable of the world, where when all they know is the Philippines, they think Philippines is the worst and nobody else is that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like they
That's so
that's
true.
one of the things that I've like noticed and it's quite sad. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
you were saying?
I guess to add up to what you said, then the value of money is very different here. Like even if
Mhm.
you exchange a 50 dirhams, which would turn out to be probably 600 pesos, your
Mhm.
50 dirhams, you can only buy what? One meal, one whole meal
Mhm.
if you really love eating, or one top. That's it. But in
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
Philippines, your
exactly.
600 pesos has so many purposes already. Like
Exactly.
money here seems to be so big when you exchange it for pesos,
Mhm.
but it's actually so different. Like money here is harder to
Mhm.
obtain than it is to
Yes.
exchange the pesos that the parents work
Mhm.
hard for, that people
Mhm.
seem to think it's just easy to, cop that money.
Exactly. And like living expenses like rents, house rent, stuff like this. It's
Especially
like
here, we can't buy houses, no? It's just like rent, rent,
exactly.
rent.
Yeah, you rent. You can't buy a house, which is, hard. And usually people who have parents that have companies that also have like a housing allowance, they have it better when
Mhm.
that happens. But not everyone actually
Not
gets that.
everyone gets that, yeah.
So, yeah, in a way. So, there is actually a lot to unload, especially like we're going to talk mostly about Filipino families because that is, the community technically
Yeah.
cuz here it's actually, promoted like kapwa, like very, it's, if you're Filipino, you're automatically family with another Filipino,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which I think is also quite toxic in a certain way. That I prior to this talk, I was researching, and there's this idea that when, like, in America, I saw this Quora like explained
Mm-hmm.
stuff that their experiences, and I'm gonna link it down below. But what they said was that they were in a grocery store, and they're a Filipino, and they met another Filipino, and it's as if that Filipino felt like, oh, you should help me out instantly because you're also Filipino.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they
yeah.
experienced that, which it's nothing bad to help somebody out, like in general, but to help somebody out because of the fact, oh, we're both Filipino. It's like you're this entitlement that you have to help me. And the person shared that when they declined, when they said no, they were like, you're not acting Filipino. And that was like, huh, how did that describe you being Filipino?
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone has their own, issues. So like, if they really can't help you out, that's really not their fault. They don't have enough
Yeah.
money to spend on another person. So,
Especially in America, no, it's a whole different
mhm,
world. Even when you're
yeah, it's
like,
a whole different world.
it's a whole different world when you go to America. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
people think that America's easy. Like, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Life there is easy. It's light.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much problems except for,
Mm-hmm.
white people problems. But there's it's almost just the same financial problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's hard
Exactly.
to make money.
Mm-hmm. And it's really sad when we have hear these stories and we relate to it. It's personally for me, I have this thing about myself that when I relate to something sad, I'm kind of sad that, oh, I relate to that too, because I don't want to relate to something
Yeah,
sad in
we're
a
not
certain
supposed to
way.
relate something like
Yeah,
to something that
you
way.
know,
You know?
that way. I don't
Yeah.
mean that I want to have a better life or not. It's just that it's sad that everyone has to go through that. That's the sad
Mhm.
thing, that everyone collectively, a lot of us experience this. And so for you, how did it affect you, like this toxicities? Like, there you just mentioned focusing on family oriented, but you could have like experienced different areas in the community as toxicity. So how did that affect you?
I guess it's affected me in so many ways.
Mhm.
Mentally.
Mhm.
When you're a kid, you're not supposed to be stressing out about certain things. Well,
Mhm.
that's how it is for me. I was a kid. I wasn't supposed to be thinking about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but since I've been dragged out to that family orientedness toxic mindset,
Mhm.
it's unconsciously affecting me too. Just hearing
Mhm.
conversations or hearing my
Uh-huh.
name being brought up as like, yung mga anak mo, ang daming nakukuha, ganyan, ganyan.
Mhm.
My parents are
Mhm.
working hard for that. You can't
Yeah.
judge me for it. And parang
Yeah.
also being seen or called as spoiled kid. Have you
Mhm.
ever been called like spoiled just because like you were like abroad?
Well, I guess to a certain extent, yeah. I
Me, I'm
don't
just
think I had it that much like you, I guess, because it's not very
mm,
prominent when I hear. Yeah.
I think they call me spoiled because at some point I am spoiled. But like I'm not spoiled in a way that I take advantage of the fact that I live abroad. Do you know?
Mhm.
Use that title or use that privilege to
Yeah.
get my way out of things when I'm in the Philippines, especially ganon.
Mhm.
Kasi when I'm in the Philippines, I'm a different person. Like
Mhm.
don't look at me as someone who's lived abroad. Just
Mhm.
look at
Mhm.
me as someone who can like, eat mang inasal and Jollibee in peace. I don't need to eat something fancy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, personally for me, I think one of the things that I would say I experienced is that some would like belittle the hardships you went through because you lived abroad.
Yeah. Oh my
So
god. Yeah.
when so this is something that I experience now, but I don't think it's not necessarily entirely toxic. It's just that it does become toxic when I keep hearing it. But like, if
Mm-hmm.
the person open to being educated and being told that this is actually the truth, then it's fine. But when they're
Mhm.
like gonna compare like
Yeah.
problems, that's really toxic. Like, why are we having a competition of who had
Yeah,
it
with
harder?
problems. Yeah, because
Yeah.
the 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 definition of hard here is, yeah, it's quite different from how hard it
Mhm.
is in the Philippines, actually, because
Mhm.
here we're really, really, really sheltered sa UAE.
Mhm. It is. It's
Been
so
here,
true.
we really are sheltered, but that doesn't mean we don't get to face the same problems as them. Like,
Mhm.
if we're being honest, the financial problem here doesn't seem as bad, but it has long-term effects.
Mhm.
Because it's not just us being affected by that financial problem that
Mhm.
people in the Philippines may blame us on. It's also them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because we send money to the Philippines for that certain family
Mhm.
who sometimes belittle us or call us selfish because we have
Mhm.
nothing to send their way. you
Mhm.
know I think that's very normalized in the Filipino community.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
moment you stop sending money, or the moment you stop sending big amounts of money, is when you're
Mhm.
gonna get called sort of selfish. you know
Mhm.
that doesn't
And
happen to us, but it does happen
yeah.
to a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. From and I've heard stories of how people would just not be able to tell them what's happening abroad just because they didn't want
Yeah, to
the ones at
worry.
home to
Mhm.
worry. But then at the end, their mental health is just like, if they just knew this is what's happening, stuff like this. And it's really sad to see that. Like, we're told to be very family oriented, but at times it's not necessarily always to help each other up, but it's usually like survivor's mentality where you
Mhm.
just want to get something from them to survive. It's not to bring all everyone up.
Yeah.
And it's really sad. But I guess for me, now that I went back home in the Philippines, and my experience right now as I'm adjusting is just that I understand that they don't mean to make me feel belittled, but it's just so weird when they make me look like as if I'm so clueless about life. Like,
Mhm.
they make it
Mhm.
look like I did not know this or know that. It's very weird. And this is very, very, very small, but sometimes when they say, "Oh, you know how to speak Tagalog pala,"
Gosh,
and
I
I'm
actually
like,
have that on my notes. I was like, I was gonna talk about this. I'm gonna talk about this toxic mindset.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
you could. But yeah, that for me is, for some, it's not everyone. There's just some that
Mhm.
are really genuinely surprised because
Yeah.
there are those. Because personally, for me, I don't have a Tagalog accent when I speak English,
Yeah.
so that's why they're surprised when I do speak Tagalog, because those who do speak English and they have a Filipino accent, sometimes, oh, they'll definitely know how, like, it's kind of
Mhm. They do know how to
subconsciously
speak
they
Tagalog.
know they
Yeah.
know they know they know because they hear the accent.
I don't know why people, have to comment on the way we speak English, or why we're so good at it,
Mhm.
why they have to acknowledge that, oh, that's why you're from abroad, or that's why you speak English because you're from abroad. Like, that doesn't
Mhm.
have to be the standard. Like, what did you benefit
Mhm.
from having to say it out loud? You know? I mean, it's
Mhm.
not
And
really a problem, but
it's not a
it's
problem, but
it's the mindset that's.
it's a mindset. And I think, to be honest with us, we're very nitpicky when it comes to speaking certain languages. Like,
Mhm.
I experience it's kind of a lose-lose situation. So let's say I do speak English, then another Filipino will be like, "We're all Filipinos here. Why do you have to speak
Oh, I
English?"
speak English, yeah. Like, no, that's just how I speak at times. Like.
you know, it's I'm comfortable. Do you have an issue? You can
Mhm.
understand me, right? And but what I did understand is people who comment on certain things like that. It's because of their self esteem, how
Mm.
they feel about themselves, and I think that also just it's because of things that they experience, like the toxicity that they experience, and they're projecting it towards another person.
Mhm.
Because usually, like they said, like, hurt people, like there's that phrase, like I've heard
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
And
I've heard that too.
it's sad, but it's also just sad you can't always understand that. At the time you're the one who got hurt. Even if they, let's say, they're also hurting, it's still,
Mm-hmm.
we're still trying to promote that it's not okay. Even if you're hurt, doesn't mean make it okay for you to hurt me back. No.
Yeah, that's right. Also,
Mm-hmm.
in retrospect, sometimes when you go home to the Philippines, of course, I'm pretty sure you probably haven't experienced this because you're an English speaker. But I personally can speak Tagalog with an okay Tagalog accent. Like
Uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
really, like I speak hard Tagalog. Like in Tagalog, matigas ako magsalita in Tagalog.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, because I don't know how to say it in English. Like I'm hard to speak Tagalog. I speak hard Tagalog. That doesn't sound right. So
Yeah,
yeah,
strong. You speak
yeah,
strongly.
yeah, ayun. I speak a very strongly Filipino accent. And so when I go into the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines, like some distant cousins or distant relatives or family friends, some would be really surprised. They would be like, "Oh, nagtatagalog ka pala. You speak Tagalog." Or like,
Mm-hmm.
"Wow, you speak Tagalog really strongly." And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Marunong ka ba mag-English?" And I'm like, "Of course." Of course. Like, do I have English? Like, I'm speaking to you in Tagalog for convenience and because I
Mm-hmm.
speak Tagalog. But when you expect me to
Exactly.
speak English to you, like, we can just talk in Tagalog. Or there's this
Mm-hmm.
like standard na if you speak proper Tagalog, you're like, akala ko ba abroad ka? Why do you speak proper Tagalog? Like, why do you expect me to be bad at Tagalog? That's such a stereotype. Kasi,
Yeah.
for people who usually grow up especially in the West, rather than the Middle Easterns, because
Mm.
most Middle Easterns
Yeah.
really know how to speak Tagalog. So for those who like
Yeah. Yeah.
was born and raised in the West, like, Canada or America, usually they have a hard time speaking Tagalog. And that's such a stereotype. Like, why would you ask me that? Like, just because
Mm-hmm.
I'm abroad, I can speak proper Tagalog or English. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of situations like that, and a lot of people go through that as well. Maybe they don't think like it's a big problem yet, but
Mm-hmm.
it sort of projects into a bigger problem in
Mm-hmm.
the long
It's
run.
part of something else. It's part of
Yeah.
them, their mindset. Because like usually with people who have that kind of mindset as well, it's not that they also nitpick other things regarding being a Filipino as well. Like, oh, if you're a Filipino, you should be like this. You should be like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're the one who will dictate it. But then,
Yeah.
as personally for me, as I was really reading about being Filipino, technically we kind of lost what the true Filipino is because
Yeah.
of the colonization. Because now we're just really a mix of a lot of things,
Yeah.
which I think people need to understand that's what being Filipino is. It's actually being a mix of a lot of cultures.
Being really
It's not just,
diverse. Yeah.
yeah, but there are some that are like so distinct. No, this is what it means. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Alright, so of course, since we are Filipino though, I'm not gonna exclude us from the toxicity. Of course, we probably also contributed or also just went along with it, because it is a norm. So, are there certain things or certain toxic traits that you've just kind of like accepted, not because you wanted to, but just, it's just
Mm-hmm.
there because you're in this community?
I did. I'm actually really judgmental. Like, I don't know
Mm.
if I got it as genes, like personality genes, but I know that I'm really judgmental. But only because I got it from, growing up in this abroad kid community.
Mm-hmm.
In the UAE, you're very sheltered. Like, everything is,
Mm-hmm.
you have to acknowledge that things are handed to you easy. Like, everything here is
Mm-hmm.
safe, everything here is, clean. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I go home to the Philippines, especially I live in a province, so it's kind of like, you know, it's not like Manila where people are like Kanya and that stuff. Yeah, they're
Mm-hmm.
not like pare, it's not like that there. And so when I go
Mm-hmm.
home, I'm usually called maarte, because I won't
Mm-hmm.
touch bugs or I'm easily disgusted by ants or easily disgusted by
Mm-hmm.
dirt. But my defense, I guess that's where it rooted from. People would call me maarte, people would be judgy towards me because I don't know what's English for maarte, but like, yeah, people would judge me
Drama
and they
queen?
call me maarte. What?
I guess the equivalent would be a drama queen.
Ah, drama queen. Pretty close. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, people would be judgy to me. And so I guess I adapted to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that's my toxic trait. Like I'm very judgy and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm very maarte too. There's nothing wrong with being maarte, but sometimes it can get
Yeah.
toxic. But in my
Yeah, it
defense,
could.
like rooted from other people. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why we want to discuss it to help
Mm-hmm.
others as well to not. Yeah, I guess for me, toxic would be comparing. Kind of, it's more of, how do I
Yeah.
put this? It's toxic for me myself, and also toxic for other people when sometimes I'm the type of person, when you share your successes, I'm kind of be like, well, somebody did something better. Like I kind of have
Yeah,
that
you have to
sometimes. Like,
compare. You feel the
yeah, I have
need
to
to compare,
compare.
no?
And
But oh,
I
that
do my,
only rooted from something else, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like because it's how I hear other people, like, like when you hear families being like, oh, my kid has this already, my
But
I
my
she
kid has
achieved
this
this.
better. Yeah. You know,
So I think,
you hear parents, they're like, oh, yung anak ko, she got this award. Oh, well,
mm-hmm,
my daughter got into this certain college. And I'm like, okay, just say congrats. Just say
yeah,
congrats.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's not bad to talk about accomplishments. It's just that how people do it, the way they present them. It's, you could say, oh, that's really great, I'm really happy for your kid. I actually want to also tell you about mine. Like they also did,
Mm-hmm.
it could be like that. But instead people just like compare. And I think I personally do that towards myself and towards other people when I see them like achieve something. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this person's can, I'm like, right, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. So I do my
Mm-hmm.
best to not like, I keep it to myself just so nobody gets hurt. But sometimes that's one of the things I do believe I have belittled someone's success because I was comparing it to another person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't fully blame us people for, or us Filipinos
Mm-hmm.
for being, for comparing ourselves to others always, or comparing things that we shouldn't compare. I think, as I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier, it's like a toxic trait inside a community is always easily spread. Like you can easily spread it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can find it in somebody else in one snap. We adapt
Mm-hmm.
to it very quickly. That's why
Yeah.
that's why I think, siguro as first Filipinos, we didn't really start to be comparing. Like we're not
Mm-hmm.
normally comparing ourselves to other people or comparing whatever to whatever it is. But I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a past trait onto
Yes,
generations.
it is.
Like
It
parents are
is. And
compared
that's
to
why it's
other people. Yeah,
hard to
it's hard
break
to.
because
Uh-huh.
it'll take years and years. Like starting from us to the next one, we really have to, because like
Mhm,
it won't stop from us, because it's really a generational issue. It really is, because
mhm,
to them, they made they might have also felt this way, like also felt this hurt, this, and then later on they were like, you know what, it's like this already, it is what it is, like bahala na.
yeah.
So they
Yeah,
kind of just
that
like
toxic mindset
stop
also,
caring.
the bahala na. It's such a
Mm-hmm.
toxic mindset. Like, bahala na. Like, why do you choose not to act upon it? Why
Mm-hmm.
do you choose to leave it as it is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, since we are growing up in this environment, it's kind of hard to separate. So we just have to learn how to cope, how to like filter ourselves through it. So how do you do that? How do you protect or filter the things that's around you when it's literally around you? So how do you deal
Mhm.
with that?
Actually, if I'm being honest, I don't deal with it because I don't know how.
Oh.
Like, I don't unwillingly choose
Oh.
to not do something about it. It's more
Mhm.
of, what do I do? Like,
Mhm.
and although I do like to vent to people,
Mhm.
I think you're aware of that. I used to rant to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to rant as a way of coping mechanism, although it's not always nice. That's the problem.
Mhm.
I don't have like a certain way to protect myself from it. Because one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
in my mindset, I'm gonna be dragged into it. So rather than
Mm-hmm.
protecting yourself from it or filtering yourself from it, just get involved, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
why am I avoiding to face this problem so much? Although
Mm-hmm.
although even if that problem isn't directed to me, I think it's because there are some things you can't protect yourself from unless
Mm-hmm.
you actually face it. And
Yeah.
I'm the type of person to just slap a band-aid on whatever is happening, you know? I'll just cover that
Uh-huh.
hole in the tank. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Not the best solution, I might
Not the best
say.
solution. Yeah. Especially when you're dealing with a toxic trait, like just putting a
Mm-hmm.
band-aid on it is not gonna fix anything.
It's not gonna cover it. In an idea, it would fester because you just.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Or usually, kaya as I said, toxic mindset is the bahala na mindset. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens to me unconsciously. Like I just because I
Mm-hmm.
adapt easily to something.
Mm-hmm.
So when a new mindset is introduced to me, unconsciously it will just be my new personality then. That
Mm-hmm.
mindset is gonna come to me. So I sort of see things as there's no way for me to get out of this toxicity just to accept
Uh-huh.
it. Like that's my mindset now as well. Nakuha ko na
Uh-huh.
yon. I already got it. Might
I
as well
see.
just acknowledge it and then just,
Well,
control when it comes out or control how it
I
won't come out.
see.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I encourage you to watch all the other episodes to help you out with that.
I
But
am. I
yeah.
am.
I'm
Yeah.
glad. Well,
Yeah.
at least I'm grateful that you are being honest, that you are actually having a
Mm-hmm.
hard time dealing with that. Because it is true. Like personally for me, it took me a while to personally learn healthy coping mechanisms and healthy filters and protecting yourself. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I would always just because at times it is really easy to just be reeled in, like
Yeah.
it's harder to fight a system that's meant to bring you like make you stuck there. Like
Make you, yeah. Crab mentality. It's hard. Crab
yeah,
mentality rather. Yeah.
exactly. Like what there are times that I want to be the better person, but then this person's just like making me know you have no,
Mm-hmm.
you have to react badly. You have to retaliate, which
Yeah.
there's that vibe, and I'm like, yeah, I admittedly, I mean, you've seen me. I don't think it's. I mean, by God's grace, because of my relationship with God as well. But
Mm-hmm.
you've seen how I treat people. Like I try my
Yeah.
best not to downgrade anyone, stuff like that.
You're
But being a
practically
Filipino,
like a living and breathing Snow White. You know, the way Snow White treats animals is the way you treat people. You know,
uh,
you're just you're
yeah.
just a ray of sunshine.
Thank you. But yeah,
Yeah.
I will admittedly say it actually really is hard. So I don't really blame you
Mm-hmm.
for not having a hard time. I'm actually really sorry that you have to go through that, just accepting things because you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't. You shouldn't accept it, but it's
Yeah.
so hard when it's really up your face, when you're like breathing it in. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
how are you the idea would be that the toxicity is like oxygen in the air and you can't just stop
Yeah.
breathing because you're gonna die.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
how it
what
feels.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the idea would be that you would have to wear a special mask so that even when you're breathing, even when you're not breathing in that toxin in. Yeah. So okay, so what advice would you give? Like something you're personally trying to do, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't, but you are trying. What's an advice you can give to those who feel so overwhelmed that to those who actually feel the same way?
Mm-hmm. Actually, the best advice I can give is to never ignore signs of your toxicity. Like you have to
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge and accept that that part of you is toxic. Like you have that toxic
Mm-hmm.
mindset. You have to acknowledge that because when you choose to ignore it, you're trying to bury it deep down. It's gonna come out somehow. Even
Mm-hmm.
though you notice it or not, it's gonna be out there. Like people will see that you have that toxic mindset, but you don't. At least when you get into a situation where other people can experience that toxicity from you, which might hurt them, which
Mm-hmm.
will hurt them rather, at least you can admit that, oh, yeah, that was my fault. That was my toxic
Mhm.
trait. And so then you
Mhm.
don't go ahead and manipulate other people into thinking that it was their fault. That's
Mhm.
why, in order to control yourself, and so that you know how to handle yourself in case, your toxicity shows, you really have to acknowledge it. That's
Mhm.
Then you'll know how to protect yourself and the others from the stress and trauma that you could cause by ignoring it,
Mhm.
you know. That's why I have that
Exactly.
bahala na mindset, or like I just accept things that are toxic, although that's really hard for like mentally and
Mhm.
emotionally. But that's where it starts. When you acknowledge
Mhm.
it, at least you know you're toxic. You're not like, oh no, I'm
Mhm.
not toxic, I don't have that.
I guess it's a lesser evil. At least, well, at
Mm-hmm.
least I know, you know.
Yeah, at least you know, rather than saying, no, I'm not like that. I don't know where you got that from.
Yeah.
That can lead to a way worse situation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But well, that I'm grateful that you shared this. It takes a lot,
Hmm.
of course, to be open about these things about yourself, because
I'm an open book. Yeah.
yes, you are, and you also love reading books as well. So,
Yeah.
no, to wrap things up, um, we share a lot, and there are things that are different because we are still individual people with different lives. And I think that's something I also want to emphasize, that even though we're all Filipino, we still go through different things, and they're all valid. They're all still very
Hmm.
valid. The hardships we go through. And it is really a toxic mindset when, like, comparing, like, even comparing struggles is really weird. And that's why
Yeah.
I want people to see that we should all be really helpful, because in all honesty, the Filipino community on the bright side is really amazing. When it does
Mhm.
come, worst comes to shove, like when somebody is down,
Everybody's
everyone will
there.
gather around to
That
help
family
out. So it
oriented
is really
mindset
great.
really helps. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But yeah, there are bad sides and good sides, and though what we really strive for is to kind of make it more good than bad.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. So now we've tackled a lot, and I'm really grateful. This was a good opening to toxicity within community. And so I give you the floor to plug anything you want. I know that you also have a YouTube channel, but I
Oh my
mean,
gosh, let's not talk about that. It's been 1 year. Sorry. Well, I'll just plug myself because um
Mhm.
I have cute Instagram, I guess. I'm kidding. But yeah, follow my Instagram.
Well, she does.
Yeah. Yeah, follow my Instagram. It's JVMIELEE. Also, I don't want to plug this here. It's so embarrassing. But I am like pabida, so like I'm gonna plug it. I've been thinking of making my own podcast, but just me. It's just me rambling.
Yeah.
But like I'll just plug
Hmm.
it soon. It's
Okay.
coming soon.
Yeah, it's when it comes out, the link will be in the description, so you guys can check that out. Yeah.
At Eunice will be there too, guys. She'll be there too.
Aww.
We'll talk about things too. But yeah, that's all my plug. My plug is also
Hmm.
watch this
No.
series. I swear, super helpful.
Thank you. I'm really
Yeah.
grateful. I guess you're a guest that had. I'm glad to have you here because you're also a guest that also listened to the episodes. So
Hmm.
thank you very
Yeah.
much as well. Yeah. Anyway, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Make sure to check out my socials, my friends' socials, and Toxic Talk socials in the description below. Once again, I encourage you to ask questions that will be answered on that 19th episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you are notified when the next episode goes up. As you wait, you can check out all my YouTube videos on my channel. Take care always and stay safe. Bye!